I was in shock when my wife Lisa ran away with her lover, leaving behind only a hastily scribbled note. "Raise your offspring on your own, don't look for me." Our daughter Emily was only 6, and I couldn't fathom how Lisa could abandon her like this. I stood in our empty bedroom, the note crumpled in my hand, my mind racing to make sense of the situation. Lisa had always been a bit distant, but I chalked it up to the stress of her job. She worked long hours as a marketing executive, and I tried to be supportive, taking care of Emily and managing the house, but nothing prepared me for this. After I finished reading the note for what felt like the 100th time, I began the painful process of gathering Lisa's belongings. As I emptied her nightstand, I found a small bag of white powder hidden under a pile of old receipts. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized what it might be. Drugs, I thought. Was Lisa involved in something illegal? My hands trembled as I continued searching the nightstand. In the back of the drawer, I found a compact disc with no label. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to watch it. I set up my laptop, inserted the disc, and hit play. The video started innocently enough, showing Lisa and a couple of her friends at our house. But as the footage continued, my stomach turned. Lisa wasn't just with one lover, she was with 3, and they were all having sex in our living room. I felt bile rise in my throat and barely made it to the bathroom before vomiting. The betrayal was so much deeper than I had imagined. It wasn't just about the cheating, it was about the deception, the drugs, the sheer audacity of doing it in our home. I sat on the bathroom floor, my mind numb. How could she do this to me, to Emily? But I couldn't dwell on the betrayal for long. I had to think about Emily. I had to be strong for her. I spent the rest of the day cleaning out Lisa's things, trying to erase the painful memories. But as I threw out the last of her belongings, I knew that this was only the beginning. Little did I know, the discovery of that video would set off a chain of events that would change our lives forever. After the initial shock wore off, I knew I had to take action. I couldn't let Lisa get away with abandoning her family and engaging in such reckless behavior. The first step was figuring out what to do with the bag of white powder. Unsure of its exact nature, I decided to take it to a friend of mine, Mark, who worked in law enforcement. Maybe he could shed some light on what it was and what Lisa might have been involved in. I called Mark and explained the situation, leaving out the more personal details. He agreed to meet me at a local coffee shop later that afternoon. As I drove there, my mind raced with questions and concerns. What if Lisa was in serious trouble? What if Emily and I were in danger? Mark greeted me with a firm handshake and a concerned look. We sat down and I handed him the bag discreetly under the table. He examined it briefly before slipping it into his pocket. "Looks like cocaine," he said quietly. "I'll get it tested to be sure, but if it is, this is serious, Patrick. Do you have any idea where she might have gotten it?" I shook my head. No clue. Lisa always seems so responsible. This is completely out of character for her. Mark sighed. "Sometimes people hide their true selves well. I'll run some checks and see if we can find any leads. In the meantime, keep an eye out for anything else suspicious." I thanked Mark and left the coffee shop, my mind even more burdened with questions. When I got home, I found Emily playing with her dolls in the living room. She looked up at me with innocent eyes, completely unaware of the storm brewing around us. I hugged her tightly, vowing to protect her no matter what. The following days were a blur of routine and worry. I tried to maintain a sense of normalcy for Emily, but every time I looked at her, I was reminded of the note Lisa left. My evenings were spent combing through Lisa's belongings, trying to find any clue that might explain her sudden departure. One night, as I was sorting through an old box of her keepsakes, I found a small notebook. It was filled with Lisa's neat handwriting, detailing her daily activities, meetings, and personal thoughts. Flipping through the pages, I found several entries that mentioned a man named David. The entries were vague, but it was clear he was more than just a friend or colleague. My heart sank as I read on. Lisa had written about secret meetings and passionate encounters, always careful not to mention too many details, but the dates and times matched the periods when she had been unusually distant and absent. The more I read, the more I realized how deeply she had been involved with this David character. It wasn't just about sex. There were mentions of plans, of escaping the mundane life she felt trapped in. I felt a mix of anger and betrayal all over again. Determined to find out more, I called Mark and told him about the notebook. He agreed to look into David's identity and see what he could dig up. Meanwhile, I kept searching, hoping to find more pieces to the puzzle. As the days turned into weeks, I slowly began to piece together the double life Lisa had been leading. It was painful and exhausting, but I needed to know the truth. And through it all, I tried to be the best father I could be for Emily, shielding her from the harsh realities of our new life. One evening, just as I was putting Emily to bed, my phone buzzed with a message from Mark. "Got some info on David. You need to see this. Meet me tomorrow." My heart pounded as I read the message. This could be the break I needed, the key to understanding why Lisa had done what she did. I kissed Emily goodnight, promising myself that I would get to the bottom of this, no matter what it took. The next morning, I dropped Emily off at school and headed straight to Mark's office. I was filled with a mix of anticipation and dread. What I discovered about David could change everything. Mark greeted me with a serious expression, motioning for me to sit. He placed a folder on the desk between us and began to explain what he had found. "David Simmons," Mark began, "is known to law enforcement. He's been involved in various criminal activities, including drug trafficking and money laundering. He's a dangerous man, Patrick." I felt a chill run down my spine. "And Lisa?" Mark nodded grimly. "It looks like she got involved with him, probably for the thrill, or maybe he promised her something she felt she was missing. But this isn't just about an affair. David asked criminal network is extensive. If Lisa was caught up in it, she could be in serious trouble." I absorbed this information, trying to process how my wife, the woman I thought I knew, could have gotten involved with such a person. My thoughts turned to Emily. I had to protect her from whatever danger Lisa might have brought into our lives. "Is there any way to find her?" I asked. Mark shook his head. "We are looking, but she has gone to ground. If she's with David, they could be anywhere. For now, you need to focus on keeping yourself and Emily safe." I left Mark's office feeling a heavy weight on my shoulders. As I drove home, I couldn't stop thinking about the dangerous world Lisa had entered. My priority now was to ensure Emily's safety and stability. That evening, as I tucked Emily into bed, I thought about how to break the news to her gently, to explain why her mother was gone without causing her more pain. I decided to wait until I had more concrete information. The next few days were tense. Mark kept me updated on the search, but there was little progress. In the meantime, I tried to keep things as normal as possible for Emily, though I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. One night, as I was putting away the laundry, I found an old family photo album. Flipping through the pages, I came across pictures of happier times. Lisa's smiling face looked back at me from vacations, birthdays, and everyday moments. It was hard to reconcile those memories with the reality of her actions. Then, as I was about to close the album, a loose photo slipped out. It was a picture of Lisa and a man I didn't recognize, taken in what looked like a fancy hotel room. They were close, too close for comfort, and Lisa's expression was one of adoration. I turned the photo over and found a note scribbled on the back to New Beginnings. "Love, D." My stomach turned as I realized that D must be David. This photo was a stark reminder of how deeply Lisa had fallen for this man. It was clear that her feelings for him went beyond mere infatuation. The next day, I received an unexpected call from Lisa's best friend, Sarah. She sounded nervous and hesitant, but she said she needed to talk to me in person. We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe later that afternoon. When I arrived, Sarah was already seated, fidgeting with her coffee cup. I sat down across from her and she looked up with worried eyes. "Patrick," she began, "there is something you need to know about Lisa." I nodded, encouraging her to continue. "She came to me a few months ago," Sarah said, "and told me about David. She was infatuated with him, convinced he was her way out of the life she felt trapped in. She mentioned something about a big job they were planning, something that could make them rich." I tried to talk her out of it, but she wouldn't listen. My heart sank as Sarah's words confirmed my worst fears. Lisa had willingly entered this dangerous world, leaving her family behind for the promise of excitement and wealth. "Do you know where she might be now?" I asked. Sarah shook her head. "No, but she did say that if things went south, she would disappear and start fresh somewhere far away. I think she really believed this was her escape." I thanked Sarah for her honesty and left the calf feeling more lost than ever. Lisa had made her choice, and now I had to make mine. Returning home, I found Emily playing in the backyard, her laughter a temporary balm to my troubled mind. I watched her for a moment, feeling a surge of determination. No matter what happened, I would protect her and give her the life she deserved. Later that night, as I sat alone in the living room, I decided it was time to take action. Lisa had abandoned us, but I wouldn't let her decisions ruin our lives. I would file for divorce and seek full custody of Emily. It was a painful decision, but it was the only way forward. As I began to draft the necessary documents, I felt a sense of resolution. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one where Emily and I would rebuild our lives without Lisa as shadow looming over us. The decision to file for divorce and seek full custody of Emily was both liberating and terrifying. I knew it was the right thing to do, but I couldn't shake the fear of the unknown. What if Lisa came back and tried to take Emily away? What if David's criminal connections put us in danger? The next morning, I visited a family lawyer, Jenna, who came highly recommended by Mark. I laid out the situation for her, including the details about Lisa's disappearance, her involvement with David and the drugs. Jenna listened carefully, her expression a mix of concern and determination. "You're doing the right thing, Patrick," she said. "Given the circumstances, we have a strong case for full custody. We'll also file a restraining order to ensure Lisa can come near you or Emily if she resurfaces." Her words brought some comfort, and I left her office with a plan in place. The legal process would take time, but at least I was taking steps to protect Emily and myself. Back at home, I threw myself into my role as a single parent. Emily needed stability, and I was determined to provide it. We established new routines, filled with school activities, play dates, and quiet evenings reading stories before bed. It wasn't easy, but Emily's resilience amazed me. A few weeks passed with no word from Lisa or any news from Mark about David. Just as I began to feel a semblance of normalcy, a knock on the door one evening shattered the calm. I opened it to find a disheveled woman standing there, her eyes wide with fear. It was Lisa. "Patrick, please let me in," she begged, her voice trembling. "I need to talk to you." Anger flared up inside me, but I kept my composure for Emily Asak. "You have 5 minutes," I said coldly, stepping aside to let her in. Lisa entered the house, glancing around nervously. "Where is Emily?" she asked. "She's at a friend's house," I replied. "Now what do you want?" Lisa sank onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. "I made a terrible mistake," she sobbed. "David turned out to be more dangerous than I ever imagined. He's after me, Patrick. I had to leave because I couldn't risk him finding you and Emily." Her words were a torrent of guilt and regret, but I found it hard to sympathize. "You should have thought about that before you abandoned your family," I said harshly. "You left me to pick up the pieces, Lisa. Emily doesn't even ask about you anymore." "I know, and I'm so sorry," she cried, "but I need your help. David wants to stop until he finds me. I need money to get far away to start over. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You think I'm going to help you after everything you've done? You left us for him, and now you want me to bail you out? No, Lisa. You need to deal with the consequences of your actions." Lisa, as desperation turned to anger. "If you don't help me, I'll have no choice but to come back into Emily's life. She's my daughter too, Patrick." I felt a surge of protectiveness. "If you try to come near Emily, I'll call the police. I have a restraining order ready to be filed. You're not going to drag her into your mess." She stood up, her face a mask of fury and despair. "You will regret this, Patrick. I'll find a way to survive with or without your help." As she stormed out of the house, I felt a mix of relief and fear. Lisa was desperate and dangerous, and I knew she wasn't going to give up easily. The next day, I called Mark and told him about Lisa's visit. He promised to keep an eye out for any signs of her or David. I also filed the restraining order, making it clear that Lisa was not to come near Emily or me. Life went on, and Emily and I settled back into our routine. But the fear of Lisa's return lingered in the back of my mind. I took extra precautions, installing a security system and keeping a close watch on who was around us. A month later, just as things seemed to be stabilizing, I received an unexpected call from Jenna. "Patrick, you need to come to my office immediately. There's been a development." My heart raced as I drove to Jenna's office, wondering what could have happened. When I arrived, she handed me a letter from Lisa's lawyer. It was a petition for joint custody of Emily. She asked, claiming that she asked, turned her life around and wants to be a part of Emily's life again, Jenna explained. We'll fight this, but you need to be prepared for a tough battle. I couldn't believe the audacity of Lisa's request. After everything she'd done, she thought she could just waltz back into our lives and play the doting mother? No, I wouldn't let that happen. As Jenna and I prepared for the legal battle ahead, I steeled myself for what was to come. Lisa had chosen her path, and now I had to protect Emily from the fallout. No matter what it took, I would ensure my daughter's safety and happiness. The days leading up to the first court hearing were a whirlwind of preparation and anxiety. Jenna and I gathered every piece of evidence we could to demonstrate Lisa's unfitness as a mother. We had her note, the drugs, the video, and even Sarah S.'s testimony about Lisa S.'s affair and criminal involvement with David. Despite the strong case we were building, I couldn't help but worry. Family courts often favored the idea of children having relationships with both parents, and I feared the judge might be swayed by Lisa S.'s claims of wanting to turn her life around. The morning of the hearing, I dropped Emily off at school and headed to the courthouse. Jenna met me outside, her usual calm demeanor reassuring. We've got this, Patrick. Just tell the truth and stay focused on what's best for Emily. Inside the courtroom, Lisa sat with her lawyer looking more put together than I'd seen her in months. Her hair was neatly styled, and she wore a conservative dress, but her eyes still held a hint of desperation. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, called the session to order. Lisa S.'s lawyer began by painting a picture of a mother who had made mistakes but was now committed to turning her life around for the sake of her daughter. He emphasized Lisa S.'s right to be a part of Emily S.'s life and her efforts to seek help and rehabilitation. Then it was Jenna S.'s turn. She laid out the facts with precision, detailing Lisa S.'s abandonment, her involvement with a known criminal, and the danger she posed to Emily. She presented the note Lisa had left, the drugs I had found, and the video evidence. She also called Sarah to the stand, who tearfully recounted Lisa S.'s affair and reckless behavior. When it was my turn to testify, I focused on the impact Lisa S.'s actions had on Emily and me. I described the fear and instability Lisa had brought into our lives and my determination to protect Emily from further harm. Lisa took the stand last. She cried, apologized, and begged for a second chance. She claimed she had cut ties with David and was undergoing therapy to deal with her issues. She promised to be a better mother if given the opportunity. As I listened to her, a part of me wanted to believe her, but I couldn't ignore the evidence of her deceit and the danger she posed. After what felt like an eternity, the judge finally spoke. This is a difficult case. On one hand, we have a mother who has made significant mistakes and has shown poor judgment. On the other, we have a father who has provided a stable and loving environment for his daughter. My primary concern is the welfare of the child. She paused, looking directly at Lisa. Miss Roberts, while I appreciate your desire to be a part of your daughter's life, your past actions and associations raise serious concerns. You abandoned your family and became involved with a dangerous individual. The evidence presented here today is compelling. Turning to me, the judge continued, Mr. Roberts, it's clear you have Emily S.'s best interests at heart. You have provided a stable and loving home, and I commend you for your efforts. She then delivered her decision. I am awarding full custody to Mr. Roberts. Miss Roberts, you will have supervised visitation rights contingent upon continued therapy and evidence of a stable lifestyle. This arrangement will be reviewed in 6 months. Relief washed over me as the judge's words sank in. I had one. Emily would be safe. Lisa broke down in tears, but I couldn't afford to feel sympathy. My focus was on Emily and her well-being. Outside the courtroom, Jenna smiled and shook my hand. Congratulations, Patrick. You did it. Thank you, Jenna. I couldn't have done it without you. As I drove home, a sense of peace settled over me. The legal battle was far from over, but I had taken the first crucial step in protecting Emily. Over the next few months, I did everything I could to create a sense of normalcy for Emily. We settled into our routines, and I watched her thrive in school and with her friends. Her laughter and smiles became the highlights of my days. Lisa S. supervised visits began, and though it was difficult to see her, I focused on ensuring they were as positive as possible for Emily. Lisa seemed genuinely committed to turning her life around. But I remained cautious, always putting Emily's safety first. As the months passed, the legal drama faded into the background. Life wasn't too perfect, but it was ours, and we were making the best of it. Emily and I grew closer, and I found strength in being the father she needed. One evening, as we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, Emily looked up at me with her big, innocent eyes. "Daddy, are we going to be okay?" I hugged her tightly, feeling a rush of love and determination. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be just fine, I promise." And for the first time in a long time, I truly believed it. As the months rolled by, the scars of the past began to heal. Emily adjusted remarkably well, and our bond grew stronger each day. The Court's decision had brought a sense of stability that we both desperately needed. Lisa's supervised visits continued, and while she seemed to be making an effort, I couldn't fully trust her. I remained vigilant, ensuring that Emily's safety and well-being were my top priority. One evening, I received a call from Mark. "Patrick, we've got some news about David. Can you come by my office tomorrow?" The next morning, I sat across from Mark as he briefed me on the latest developments. "David's been arrested," he said, a note of satisfaction in his voice. "He was caught in a drug bust. He is facing serious charges and will likely be in prison for a long time." Relief washed over me. David's arrest meant one less threat to worry about. What about Lisa? Is she still connected to him? "We don't have any evidence that she has been in contact with him recently," Mark replied. "But we'll keep an eye on things. For now, you can focus on rebuilding your life with Emily." With David out of the picture, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could finally move forward without the constant shadow of fear. As the weeks turned into months, Emily and I settled into a comfortable routine. We spent weekends exploring parks, visiting the zoo, and even taking short trips to nearby towns. I wanted to create happy memories for her, ones that would overshadow the painful past. One afternoon, as we were walking through a local farmer's market, Emily tugged on my hand. "Daddy, look, they have face painting. Can I get mine done?" I smiled at her excitement. "Of course, sweetie. Let's go." As Emily sat still, her face being transformed into a colorful butterfly, I noticed a woman standing nearby watching us. She had kind eyes and a warm smile. When our eyes met, she approached us. "Hi there," she said, extending her hand. "I am Claire. I run a local parenting support group. I couldn't help but notice how close you and your daughter are. It is really heartwarming." "Nice to meet you, Claire," I replied, shaking her hand. "I am Patrick, and this is Emily." Claire smiled at Emily, who was now admiring her painted face in a mirror. "Emily, you look beautiful. Would you like to join our group? We have lots of fun activities for kids your age." Emily's eyes lit up. "Can we daddy, please?" I looked at Claire, grateful for the opportunity. We'd loved to. Over the next few weeks, Emily and I started attending the support group. It was a wonderful experience filled with friendly faces and supportive parents. Claire and I became friends, and I found myself opening up about my past struggles and the challenges of single parenthood. One evening, after the group meeting, Claire and I sat on a bench watching Emily play with the other children. "You're doing an amazing job, Patrick," Claire said, her voice sincere. "Emily is a wonderful child, and it's clear how much you love her." "Thank you, Claire," I replied, feeling a warmth spread through me. "I'm just trying to give her the best life possible." Claire hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "Patrick, have you thought about dating again? I know it is a delicate subject, but you deserve happiness too." I was taken aback by her question. Dating hadn't crossed my mind in a long time. My focus had been solely on Emily, but as I looked at Claire, I realized she was right. I couldn't deny the loneliness that sometimes crept in during the quiet moments. "I've thought about it," I admitted, "but I'm not sure where to start." Claire smiled warmly. "Well, if you ever need a friend to talk to or someone to go out with, I'm here. No pressure. Just know you're not alone." Her words were comforting, and I felt a spark of something I hadn't felt in a long time, hope. As the months passed, Claire and I grew closer. We spent time together with Emily, going on outings and attending events. Claire was kind, patient, and genuinely cared about Emily and me. Slowly, I began to trust again, allowing myself to believe that a new beginning was possible. One evening, as we walked through the park, Emily ran ahead chasing fireflies. Claire and I strolled behind, enjoying the peaceful moment. Patrick, Claire said softly, I want you to know how much I admire your strength. You've been through so much, and yet you've managed to create a beautiful life for Emily. I stopped and looked at her, feeling a rush of emotions. I couldn't have done it without you, Claire. You've been a beacon of light for us. She smiled, her eyes shining, and you've brought so much joy into my life. I care about you, Patrick. I care about both of you. In that moment, under the soft glow of the setting sun, I realized that maybe, just maybe, I had found a second chance at happiness. Claire's presence had brought healing and hope into our lives, and I was ready to embrace whatever the future held. As we continued our walk, I felt a sense of peace and contentment. The past was behind us, and the future looked bright. With Emily by my side and Claire in my life, I knew we could face anything that came our way. As time passed, my relationship with Claire blossomed into something beautiful. We spent more time together, and our bond deepened with each shared experience. Emily adored Claire, and their relationship brought me immense joy and reassurance. I was grateful for the sense of normalcy and happiness that was slowly becoming a part of our lives. One Saturday morning, we decided to take a day trip to a nearby beach. Emily was ecstatic, bouncing around the house, gathering her beach toys and sunscreen. Claire and I packed a picnic basket, and soon we were on our way. The car filled with laughter and excitement. The beach was perfect. The sun was shining, the waves were gentle, and the air was filled with the sound of seagulls and children playing. We set up our spot, spreading out a blanket and settling in for a day of fun and relaxation. As Emily built sandcastles nearby, Claire and I sat on the blanket, enjoying the view and each other's company. "This is perfect," Claire said, leaning her head on my shoulder. "I love seeing Emily so happy." I nodded, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. "It has been a long time since we've had a day like this. Thank you for being a part of it, Claire." She smiled up at me, her eyes sparkling in the sunlight. "Thank you for letting me be a part of your lives, Patrick. I care about you both so much." We spent the day swimming, playing games, and enjoying our picnic. As the sun began to set, we packed up and headed home, tired but content. Emily fell asleep in the back seat, clutching her favorite stuffed animal, and Claire rested her hand on mine as I drove. Over the next few weeks, our lives continued to intertwine. Claire and I grew closer, and Emily flourished with the stability and love surrounding her. It felt like we were building something lasting, something real. One evening, after putting Emily to bed, Claire and I sat on the porch, sipping tea and enjoying the cool breeze. Claire took my hand, her expression serious. "Patrick, I've been thinking a lot about us, about our future." My heart raced as I looked at her. "What are you thinking?" She smiled softly. "I love you, Patrick, and I love Emily. I want us to be a family officially. I know it's a big step, but I believe in us." Tears filled my eyes as I realized how much I wanted the same thing. "I love you too, Claire, and I can imagine my life without you. Let's do this. Let us be a family." We embraced a sense of joy and anticipation filling the air. The next few months were a whirlwind of planning and excitement. We decided to move in together, finding a new home where we could start fresh as a family. Emily was thrilled, helping us pack and dreaming about her new room. As we settled into our new home, life took on a new rhythm. We decorated the house together, making it a warm and welcoming space filled with love and laughter. Emily adjusted well to the changes, and her happiness was evident in her bright smiles and endless energy. One evening, as we gathered around the dinner table, Emily looked up at us with a serious expression. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart," I replied, curious about what was on her mind. "Can I call Claire Mom?" she asked, her voice hesitant. Claire's eyes filled with tears as she reached out to hold Emily's hand. "I would be honored, Emily. You can call me whatever makes you happy." Emily beamed, and I felt a lump in my throat as I watched the two of them. Our family was coming together in ways I had only dreamed of. Life wasn't tea without its challenges. Lisa still had her supervised visits, and though she seemed to be making an effort, I remained cautious. We maintained strict boundaries, ensuring Emily's safety and well-being were always prioritized. One day I received a call from Lisa S.'s therapist, Dr. Reynolds. "Patrick, I wanted to update you on Lisa S.'s progress. She has been attending her sessions regularly and seems genuinely committed to making positive changes. She has expressed a desire to have more involvement in Emily's life, and I wanted to discuss the possibility of transitioning to unsupervised visits. My heart sank at the thought. I appreciate the update, Dr. Reynolds, but I am not comfortable with that. Emily's safety is my top priority. I understand your concerns, Patrick, Dr. Reynolds replied, but I believe Lisa has made significant progress. Perhaps we can consider a gradual transition, starting with extended supervised visits. I agreed to discuss the matter further with Jenna and Claire, needing their input and support. That evening, we sat down together to talk about the situation. I am really wary about this, I admitted. But if Lisa is truly making progress, maybe we should consider it for Emily's sake. Claire nodded thoughtfully. I understand your hesitation, Patrick, but Emily deserves to know her mother if it is safe. We can take it slow, monitor the situation closely. With Jenna's guidance, we developed a plan to gradually extend Lisa's supervised visits with regular check-ins and evaluations to ensure Emily's safety. It was a delicate balance, but I was determined to do what was best for my daughter. As we navigated this new phase, I found strength in Claire's unwavering support and love. Together, we faced each challenge, always putting Emily's well-being first. One sunny afternoon, as we watched Emily play in the yard, Claire took my hand and smiled. We were doing okay, Patrick. We were building a beautiful life. I squeezed her hand, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. Yes, we are, and I couldn't do it without you. In that moment, I realized that despite the trials and tribulations, we had found our way to happiness. We had built a new life, filled with love, hope, and the promise of a brighter future. As we transitioned to extended supervised visits with Lisa, the tension was palpable. Each visit was carefully monitored, and we documented every interaction. Emily seemed to enjoy the time with her mother, but I remained vigilant, ready to step in if anything went wrong. One afternoon, after a particularly emotional visit, Lisa asked to speak with me privately. Reluctantly, I agreed, meeting her in a quiet corner of the park where the visit was held. Patrick, I know I've hurt you and Emily, she began, her voice trembling. But I'm really trying to change. I miss being a part of her life. I looked at her, searching for any sign of deception. Lisa, I want to believe you, but you've put us through so much. Emily's safety is my priority. She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. I understand. I just want a chance to prove myself. I appreciate your effort, Lisa, but you need to understand that trust takes time to rebuild, I replied. For now, we'll continue with supervised visits. We'll reassess in a few months. Lisa looked defeated, but nodded in agreement. Thank you, Patrick. I'll do whatever it takes. As I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I wanted to believe that Lisa was sincere, but the past had left deep scars. I confided in Claire, who reassured me that we were doing the right thing by taking it slow. Life continued to move forward, and our family settled into a new normal. Emily was thriving, and Claire and I grew closer with each passing day. We celebrated birthdays, holidays, and the everyday moments that made life special. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Claire turned to me, her expression serious. Patrick, I think at time we talked about the future. My heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? She took a deep breath. I love you and I love Emily. I want us to be a family officially. I think it's time we considered getting married. I felt a rush of emotions. I had been thinking about the same thing, but hearing Claire say it made it feel real. I want that too, Claire, more than anything. We began planning our wedding, a small and intimate ceremony with close friends and family. Emily was overjoyed, and we involved her in every step of the process, from choosing the venue to picking out her dress. The day of the wedding was perfect. We exchanged vows under a canopy of blooming flowers, surrounded by the people we loved. Emily stood between us, holding our hands, her smile radiant. I promised to love and protect you both always, I said, my voice filled with emotion. We are a family now and forever. Claire's eyes sparkled with tears, and I promised to stand by you through every challenge and every joy. Together, we are stronger. After the ceremony, we celebrated with a simple reception, filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts. Emily danced with Claire, and as I watched them, my heart swelled with gratitude. Later that evening, as we sat together on the porch, Claire leaned her head on my shoulder. "Today was perfect, Patrick. I am so happy." "Me too," I replied, wrapping my arm around her. "I can't imagine my life without you." As the months passed, our family continued to grow stronger. Lisa's visits remained supervised, and she seemed to be making genuine progress. We cautiously extended her time with Emily, always monitoring the situation closely. One day I received a call from Mark. "Patrick, there is something you need to know. David has been released on bail." My heart sank. "What does that mean for us?" "It means you need to be extra cautious," Mark replied. "Keep an eye out for any suspicious activity and make sure Emily is safe. We'll do everything we can to monitor the situation." I thanked Mark and hung up, feeling a wave of anxiety wash over me. I knew I had to be vigilant, but I also didn't want to live in constant fear. I shared the news with Claire, who held my hand, her expression resolute. "We'll get through this, Patrick," she said firmly. "We've faced so much already. We'll face this too." Together, we took extra precautions, ensuring our home was secure and keeping a close watch on our surroundings. I informed Lisa of the situation, making it clear that any contact with David would result in immediate termination of her visits with Emily. Despite the added stress, life continued. Emily started a new school year, excited about her classes and new friends. Claire and I focused on building our life together, finding joy in the everyday moments. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, Emily looked up at us, her eyes shining with happiness. "I love our family," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "Thank you for making everything so wonderful." Tears filled my eyes as I looked at Claire and then at Emily. "We love you too, sweetheart, and we'll always be here for you." As we cleared the table and settled in for a cozy evening, I felt a deep sense of contentment. Our journey had been filled with challenges, but it had also brought us closer together. We had found strength in each other and built a life filled with love, hope, and the promise of a brighter future. And as I held Claire and Emily close, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it together as a family. The next few months were a mix of happiness and underlying tension. With David out on bail, I remained hyper-aware of our surroundings, always on the lookout for any sign of trouble. Despite this, life continued, and we focused on the positive. One weekend, Claire suggested a family outing to a nearby amusement park. Emily was thrilled, and the idea of a carefree day sounded perfect. We spent the day riding roller coasters, eating cotton candy, and playing games. Emily's laughter was infectious, and for a while I forgot about the worries that loomed over us. As the sun began to set, we decided to take one last ride on the Ferris wheel. From the top, the view was breathtaking, and I held Claire and Emily close, savoring the moment. Just as the ride began its descent, I noticed a familiar face in the crowd below. It was David. His eyes locked on us with a menacing glare. Panic surged through me, but I kept my composure for Emily as sock. "Claire, we need to get out of here," I whispered urgently. She followed my gaze and saw David. Her expression tightened, but she nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. As soon as the Ferris wheel stopped, we hurried to the exit, keeping a low profile. I called Mark on the way, informing him of David's presence. "We are on it, Patrick. Get to a safe place," Mark replied. We drove home in tense silence, constantly checking the rearview mirror to ensure we weren't being followed. Once home, I activated the security system and locked all the doors. Claire and I put Emily to bed, reassuring her that everything was fine. After Emily was asleep, Claire and I sat in the living room, the weight of the situation pressing down on us. "We can keep living like this," Claire said, her voice filled with frustration. "We need to do something." "I know," I replied, feeling the same sense of helplessness. "But what can we do? David is dangerous, and I want to risk Emily's safety." The next morning, Mark called with an update. "We've got officers keeping an eye on David, but you need to be careful. He is unpredictable." The days that followed were filled with a mix of normalcy and heightened vigilance. We went about our routines, but I was always on edge, waiting for the next shoe to drop. Then one afternoon, as I was picking Emily up from school, I noticed a black car parked nearby. My heart raced as I recognized the license plate. It was David's car. I hurried Emily into the car and drove straight to the police station. David S. following us, I told the officer at the desk, my voice shaking. The officer took my statement and promised to increase patrols in our neighborhood. I also contacted Jenna to inform her of the situation, and she advised me to document everything and keep Emily S. School informed. That evening, as we gathered in the living room, I felt the weight of the constant fear pressing down on me. Claire sat beside me, her hand resting on mine. "We need to find a way to end this, Patrick," she said softly. "I know," I replied, feeling the frustration and helplessness bubbling up, "but I don't know how." Just then, the phone rang. It was Lisa. "Patrick, I heard about David. I want to help. I know where he might be hiding." Her offer surprised me. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, wary of her motives. "Because I want to protect Emily," she said, her voice sincere, "and because I owe you that much." After discussing it with Mark and Claire, we decided to follow Lisa S. lead cautiously. She provided an address, and Mark sent a team to investigate. A few days later, we got the news we had been hoping for. David had been apprehended at the location Lisa provided. He was now in custody, facing additional charges that would likely keep him behind bars for a long time. The relief was overwhelming. I thanked Lisa for her help, and she expressed her desire to continue rebuilding her relationship with Emily. While I was still cautious, I appreciated her with David out of the picture. The sense of normalcy we had been striving for finally seemed within reach. We celebrated by having a small family gathering at our home. Emily invited a few friends, and the house was filled with laughter and joy. One evening, after everyone had left and Emily was asleep, Claire and I sat on the porch, the cool night air wrapping around us. "We did it, Patrick," Claire said, her voice filled with pride. "We made it through." I pulled her close, feeling a sense of peace that had eluded me for so long. "Yes, we did, and we'll keep making it through no matter what." As we sat there watching the stars, I realized that the challenges we had faced had only strengthened our bond. We were a family, and together we could overcome anything. The following weeks were a time of healing and growth. Lisa's visits with Emily continued to be supervised, but the tension had eased. Emily was happy, thriving in school, and enjoying her time with friends and family. One day, as I was tucking Emily into bed, she looked up at me with a serious expression. "Daddy, do you think everything will be okay now?" I smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yes, sweetheart, I think everything will be okay. We are a strong family and we'll always take care of each other." She hugged me tightly, and I felt a wave of love and gratitude. Life had thrown us many challenges, but we had faced them together and come out stronger. As I left Emily's room and joined Claire in the living room, I felt a sense of contentment. We had built a new life, one filled with love, hope, and the promise of a brighter future. And as we looked forward to the days ahead, I knew that we were ready to face whatever came our way, together, with David securely behind bars and Lisa making genuine efforts to rebuild her relationship with Emily. The storm that had overshadowed our lives began to dissipate. Claire, Emily, and I could finally breathe easy and focus on the future. One sunny afternoon, we decided to take a trip to the local botanical gardens. Emily loved exploring the vibrant flowers and winding paths, and it was a perfect way to spend a peaceful day together. As we wandered through the gardens, hand in hand, I felt a sense of tranquility that had been missing for so long. "Daddy, look at this one," Emily called, pointing to a bright, multicolored flower. Her excitement was infectious, and I found myself grinning as I took in her wonder. Claire leaned in, whispering in my ear, "She says so happy, we all are." I nodded, squeezing her hand. "We've come a long way." As we continued exploring, we stumbled upon a small gazebo nestled among the flowers. It was picturesque, and Emily ran ahead, twirling in delight as she reached it. Claire and I followed, watching her with smiles on our faces. "I love this place," Emily said, her eyes sparkling. "It's like a fairy tale." Claire and I exchanged a glance, and I felt a sudden surge of inspiration. "How about we make it even more special?" I suggested, pulling Claire close. Claire looked at me curiously. "What do you have in mind?" I took a deep breath, feeling my heart race. "Claire, you've been my rock, my partner, and my best friend. You've brought joy and stability into our lives, and I can imagine a future without you. Will you marry me?" Her eyes widened in surprise, and then they filled with tears. "Oh, Patrick, yes, of course I will." Emily clapped her hands, jumping up and down. Yay, we're going to be a real family. I slipped the ring onto Claire's finger and we embraced the gazebo filled with laughter and joy. It was a moment of pure happiness, a promise of a bright future ahead. As we planned our wedding, Emily was an enthusiastic helper, eager to be involved in every detail. The ceremony was a small, intimate affair, held in the same botanical gardens where I had proposed. Surrounded by close friends and family, we exchanged vows, pledging to love and support each other through all of life as challenges. Claire, you've brought light into my life when I needed it most. I promise to love you, cherish you, and stand by your side no matter what, I said, my voice filled with emotion. Patrick, you've shown me the true meaning of love and family. I promise to be your partner, your confidant, and your best friend always, Claire replied, tears in her eyes. Emily stood between us, holding our hands, her smile radiant. We are a family now, she said, her voice filled with joy. After the ceremony, we celebrated with a simple reception, filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts. As the night drew to a close, I looked around at the people who had supported us through our journey and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Life settled into a happy routine. Emily continued to thrive, and Claire and I enjoyed the peace and stability we had worked so hard to achieve. Lisa's visits remained supervised, and she continued to make progress, showing genuine effort to be a positive presence in Emily's life. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Claire turned to me, her expression thoughtful. Patrick, I've been thinking, what do you think about expanding our family? The idea filled me with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. You mean having another child? She nodded, her eyes shining with hope. I think it would be wonderful for Emily to have a sibling, and I love the idea of growing our family with you. I took her hand, feeling a surge of love and determination. I think it is a beautiful idea, Claire. Let us do it. The months that followed were filled with anticipation and joy. Claire's pregnancy brought a new level of happiness to our home, and Emily was thrilled at the prospect of becoming a big sister. We prepared the nursery, painted the walls a soft shade of blue, and filled it with love and anticipation. Finally, the day arrived. Claire went into labor, and we rushed to the hospital. The hours were long, but when our son Ethan was born, it was all worth it. Holding him in my arms for the first time, I felt an overwhelming sense of completeness. As we brought Ethan home, Emily was overjoyed, eager to take on her new role. I am going to be the best big sister ever, she declared, her eyes filled with determination. Life with 2 children was busy, chaotic, and incredibly fulfilling. Our home was filled with laughter, love, and the beautiful chaos that comes with raising a family. Each day brought new challenges and joys, and I couldn't have asked for anything more. One evening, as we sat in the living room, Claire feeding Ethan and Emily reading a story, I looked around at my family and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. We had faced so many challenges, but we had come through stronger and more united. Thank you for being my rock, I whispered to Claire, my voice filled with emotion. I love you. She smiled, her eyes filled with love. And thank you for being mine. I love you too, Patrick. As we settled in for the night, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it together as a family. We had built a life filled with love, hope, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. And as I held Claire and watched our children sleep, I felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that we were exactly where we were meant to be.